Oops.
Always what you want to hear right before a stream. Oops or shit.
There we go. The following live interview is presented by MightyOxTrading. Today's opening bell is welcome to MightyOxTrading. Today's special live interview.
My Futures
with
launched
Matt
their new starter
Hensley
plans at the beginning of
from.
July, and they are hot,
You know what? I forgot to ask you
The
how
best
exactly you pronounce the name of your
plans,
company.
best accounts, whatever you
So
want to call them, in
there's a
futures.
little story there.
50K
and I'll tell you
accounts,
this. So I always get
$76
asked,
all in.
and this was
That is the
unintentional,
cheapest
but
in
it's
futures. No funded
so
setup
it's
fees.
pronounced
Easy
Tiresias
eval.
Trading
You can pass in
or
one day. No
Tiresias,
consistency
and
rules. No minimum
I
trading
mainly
days. End of day
chose that
drawdown.
name for two
No setup
reasons.
fees. You
One,
have
I
a
kind of
path
like
to
Greek
live.
mythology. Tiresias was one of the Greek
Everything
oracles,
good
one of the deified
about futures
oracles, if I
trading
recall.
is in
Seemed
these
pretty good
accounts.
for the
Check
business.
them out.
And two, I just
Video
really like
link
alliteration,
is in
so
the
I
video
needed
description
something with a
below.
T to go before trading. But yes, Tiresias Trading is what it is, and I get asked about it all the time, which gives me a chance to talk about my company.
Excellent. So I'm glad we started that way. So Tiresias Trading. Matt from Tiresias Trading, welcome. Thank you for joining me today. How you doing today?
I'm doing great, and thank you for having me. I really appreciate it. I've said this. Well, I try not to talk about people behind their back, but I guess if I'm going to do it, I'll be positive about it. I've had some conversations with some mutual friends of ours that have spoken highly of you, and I think you're filling a great niche in this business in terms of offering people some unfiltered and unbiased opinions of these. I've said the prop firms are I think simultaneously the best and worst thing that's happened to retail traders, but the fact that it's taken the barrier to entry to almost nothing, right? Like so many companies out there offer evals between 30, 50, $70. That's awesome. The fact that there's no barrier to entry. I remember just when I got into futures a few years ago, it was paperwork on paperwork. I had to set up a brokerage account. Then I had to find a data feed. Then I had to have a platform that worked with both of them. It was like a roulette wheel spinning, and they all had to line up. And it took me like 2 weeks to just figure it out. So the fact that you can sign up and be trading an eval in 5, that's outstanding. I do love that. I do think they create a little bit more of like these kind of compartmentalization of trading careers in terms of, well, you fail an eval, you're the worst trader in the world, where you pass one where you're the best. Well, of course, neither is true, but overall, it's a great service you're providing there, and I know people appreciate that, and that's why I was excited to talk to you tonight.
Absolutely. Thank you, and I appreciate that. And I totally agree. I mean, I think this is why futures is becoming more and more popular everywhere, is because the barrier to entry has uh, been so. Uh, hmm. Okay, they're saying they can't hear you, and I have you all the way up. Let me see if I can figure that out. Uh, hmm. Give me a second.
I can just lean in a little closer to the microphone if
Yep.
that works.
Let's see. Is that any better, Livestock and Marie?
Okay, they say I sound fine, so I'm basically gonna have a very intimate moment with the microphone here for the next few minutes. We just went to a PG-13 stream here, so I hope I don't get any strikes against you on your YouTube channel.
I think we should be fine. Okay, so.
You know what? Let me try a different.
Okay.
Any better if I just go straight through my earbuds? Can everybody hear me a little better there?
Okay, how about that? Is that any better, guys? Some people can hear and some people can't. It's interesting.
Much better. Okay, that's great.
There we go.
We'll just do it. F it. We'll do it live. Well, we are live, but whatever.
So let's get started in your journey, I guess. You have been trading for over a decade now. Is that correct?
Yeah, it's actually just past a decade. A couple of months ago, had a big anniversary party. There was shit. No, there wasn't. But actually, I thought about leading up to. It was in May, and I thought about leading up to it. I was like, oh, this is really cool. I should honor this and somehow. And then I completely forgot about it. And I got to the end of May. I'm like, oh, okay, I guess that doesn't work. No, my journey to the markets, I think, like a lot of people, is very.
twisting and turning and in a lot of different starts and stops. So after college, I got into working I was a basketball coach, and I ideally wanted to coach college basketball. And I started off just doing, teaching, doing some coaching on the high school level, and really enjoyed that. I love the teaching aspect of it. And basketball is probably my favorite sport to coach and watch. My talents took me all the way to 8th grade basketball, and then they abandoned me. So I definitely went into the coaching aspect of it. But then I got to, let's see, like 2007, 2008. And not to put too fine a point on it, but I was really tired of not having any money. And,
I understand that.
yeah. So at the time, my grandma, my dad's mom, had begun to decline a little bit mentally. She was getting up there a little bit. So my dad took over power of attorney on all her affairs. She didn't have a ton of assets, but she had, I want to say it was like 20, 30 grand in a retirement account. House was long paid off, didn't have a lot of expenses, was on Social Security. Everything was fine. She was great. But then 2008 happened. And both my parents' retirement accounts, my dad was very close to retirement. My mom just retired recently, but they had the conversation everybody had at the end of 2008 into 2009, where their financial advisors were saying, oh yeah, by the way, we lost 20% of your portfolio, this money you've worked hard for many years. Yeah. Oh, and here's my bill. Right. Like, and I remember my dad kind of having the same reaction a lot of people had during that time, which was, why am I paying somebody to lose my money? I can do that for free. I can lose my own money way more efficiently and not pay somebody to do it. And so he started kind of looking into doing kind of his own thing with that, and didn't do it at that point, but eventually transitioned to that when he retired. And I started, as I would come over to the house and to, especially to steal food, because, teaching and part-time teaching, part-time coaching doesn't really pay the bills. And so I would pick up a book here or there, this and that. And I remember picking up Bill O'Neill's book, How to Make Money in Stocks, right? I mean, very succinct title, very enticing and all that. And his whole can slim method and all that. And that sort of led me, as you and I were talking before we went live here, down the small cap route. Because when you just have a few $1,000s, small caps will turn you into a millionaire overnight, right?
Absolutely.
Because it's I'm kidding. Nobody take this stream and sue me in a month, right? But yeah, and so I got into it. And actually, I did all right for a little while, and then I just got, as a lot of newer traders do, got a little cocky, got heavy in a position size, and basically lost almost my life savings over the course of about 4 months. And at that point, I did what I always recommend now traders do when they hit a little patch and maybe they're struggling a little bit, is I stopped altogether. And I went back. I remember I was sitting on my bed, and, I'm not ashamed to admit it at this point. I was bawling my eyes out, wondering, I quit my jobs for this, which, guys, don't ever quit your jobs until you're making serious money in trading. Don't do the dumb stuff that I did, right? Like, I speak from authority on doing dumb stuff as a newer trader, because if there was something stupid to do as a first year trader, I did it, right? Like, it's so you kind of talk down to you really call people. Yeah, I was that guy. So, but anyway, I went back to the drawing board. I started completely from scratch. I basically woke up the next day and I say, this is not day, 200 of your trading career. This is day 0. And I'm going to come up with a plan. I wrote out a plan on a couple of pieces of paper. Every book you've already read, you're going to reread it. Every course you've already taken, you're going to retake it. Every video you've watched, you're going to rewatch it. And took about 3 months and did all that. Then gradually got into paper trading. Got back in and had some success. And over the course of about the next 8 months, I made back what I lost. But that still doesn't get, I'm a year in now, almost a year and a half in, and I'm break even, which, as I've come to find out over the years, does put me a little bit ahead of the game. But I realized small caps was not really where I wanted to be. So I moved into some large caps, and then, because of just basic leverage, and I moved into options. I met a couple of my mentors, one who hired me, gave me one of my first jobs in the trade education industry, and then another one that I ended up working for over at TradeStation for a little while when she sold her company into TradeStation. And I've been in and out and up and down. And I want to say about 6 months before COVID, in the lockdowns, I had a conversation with a fellow coach. I was coaching options at TradeStation for their education subsidiary called You Can Trade. And I mean, I was doing a bunch of stuff for them. I was actually doing a form of Beyond the Bell, which is the post-market show I do right now. And I got one of the other coaches there got really into futures, and he said, "Hey, you should try this." And he lives about 2 hours away from me, so I actually drove to his house, spent about 3 days there, just doing some of this stuff, and I got really into it. Now I was smart about it, and this was before the prop firms. Or at least before they were as widely, the virtual prop firms, at least as widely disseminated as they are now. And oh, hey, John, nice to see you. Sorry, I'm just catching up on the comments here. But the so I spent about 6 months paper trading and got really into it, had some success. I still probably did not scale up as quick as I could have or should have. I took about 2 years where I really wasn't trading more than about 5 to 8 micros. It was probably almost 2 years before I traded multiple minis. Just now kind of in the 3 to 4 minis on the indexes, but it was, a lot of the lessons I learned, I was fortunate. I kept some very detailed like trading psychology journals, which is something I recommend every new trader do. We all talk about journaling our trades, which is vital, extremely important. I say many times, and I've caught flack for this in the past, but I say, if you're trading and you're not journaling your trades, whether it's as simple as Excel or you're using TraderView, TraderSync, TradeZella, there's several other ones out there. If you're not doing that, honestly, you're wasting your time. In my not so humble opinion, because you're never going to know where areas are to improve and all that. But anyway, we can get back into that momentarily. But I kept a trading psychology journal as well, where I would record like my mental state coming in and out of trades. And this was something I got into a habit as a swing trader. Now, if you're making 7 to 10 trades a week, it's real easy to journal everything, right? Nothing gets by you. I had a page, I was, handwritten journal to start with. And so I basically went through this trading psychology journal. I was recording hours of sleep. I don't drink a ton during the week, but if I had a couple of drinks the night before, caffeine intake in the morning, and not all of that necessarily was actionable, although I did cut my caffeine back, and it did actually improve my performance in my first 2 trades of the day, just because I'm not, I cut back from basically 3 to 4 cups of coffee to 1, maybe 2, and that was really helpful. But I was not gonna. It was no edge left behind, right? If there was some kind of edge to something, I was gonna find it, and that led me kind of to where I am now. And it's a long journey, and I don't consider myself, as crazy as this sounds, especially as somebody who maybe presents a little bit as an authority and sells education and all that. I almost don't consider myself like a master trader. I've mastered this, maybe somewhere between intermediate and advanced, but I love the learning process almost to a detriment. Like, I'm so quick to, like, I learn a new concept. Ooh, it's the I can't wait to, what was it? What was the movie with the cartoon dog? It was like squirrel. Like, that's me when it comes to new things and new ideas. And so I had to rein that in. And it really was about 4 years ago that I really focused on about 2 or 3 strategies, started developing them. Most of them are VWAP based. Then I moved into Renko charts. I came up with a couple of really reliable patterns there, sort of based on cup and handle type stuff, and tests and retests of areas of support and resistance. And kind of the rest is history. And I'm starting to get a little more aggressive in my scaling up. And quite frankly, I hope to be, continuing that for the next several years. I'm going to trade until I can't physically do it anymore. And I'm just, this is a truly life-changing profession, right?
Mhm.
And I mean that in every way possible. I tell people, I have actually, I'm in the process of putting it together right now. A brand new, what I call 5-day trader challenge, right? Which is a video comes out every day over 5 days, dripped out. And one of the first ones I talk about is, when you make the decision to become a trader, your life it changes. It will not be the same again, because very few people get into trading. I'm sure you know this, Ox. Very few people get into trading for a month or two and give up or stop. They become obsessed in some way, shape, or form, because even early on, you see, especially coming into the futures with that low barrier of entry, like I said, you see the possibilities and you see other people doing it, or at least other people claiming to be doing it, right? That's a whole nother conversation. But once you dedicate yourself to this, and this changes your life in ways I don't even know that people would thought possible. But yeah, so that's kind of the 10,000 foot view. We can drill in a little more here or there, but yeah, that's kind of my the Reader's Digest version of my journey.
Yeah, but I totally agree with you. I mean, I've probably said maybe 300 times, including multiple times in a day that I quit trading. But
Mhm.
I know I never mean it. I don't think I could ever leave trading now that I've been a part of this. So I totally get where you're coming from with that. It is life changing. I've told people it's, if you're willing to put in the work, it's the best chance of changing your life, because the opportunities there, it's all there, and it's all basically you versus the market. It's doesn't rely on anybody else. It's all that, and I believe it's something that most people could do if they put the work in. Put it that way. I mean, I don't think.
Absolutely right. And
Yeah, go ahead.
and let me agree with you wholeheartedly on one thing and slightly disagree with you on one thing you just said. I wholeheartedly agree. You have to put in the work. The work is not optional. And there's again, you and I were talking before we came on, like some of these, and I'm not here. I don't have the time nor the energy to go through other people's materials or courses, or the free YouTube streamers or anything like this. I just and say this person's legit or this is not, right? Because in this business, not only does it matter if you're legit or not, it matters, can you teach what you know? Like, that's a bigger issue than people think. I've met many great traders in my career, all of traveling the country and doing a lot of the Traders Expo events before COVID and doing a lot of that stuff. Um, the it's a it's an interesting world, but there's so many great traders that, I'm sorry, do not have the ability to teach what they do, and it's rare to find somebody that can kind of do both. I hope I qualify for that, but I try to be as unbiased as possible with that. However, I do, but doing the work is important. I do. You are correct technically when you say it's us versus the market, but more often it's more you versus you,
Well,
and
yeah,
and
yeah, you're right.
it's a I guess we're both right, right? I don't, you versus the market is not incorrect, but it's the cool thing is, like, us as retail traders. Yeah, I mean, sure, I guess in the actual ledger, if I make a bad trade, you can take my money, technically speaking. But in general, we're up against the algos and the funds and all of that, and we're not playing for multiple months, and we're not playing for tens of millions of dollars on a single trade like they are. I don't again, I don't ever consider myself trading against other retail traders or trading against funds and algos and HFTs. I consider myself trading against my own worst enemies a lot of the time, right? And it's the two emotions we all deal with in trading that affect nearly every single one of our decisions if we let it. It's fear and greed,
Yeah.
right? Those two emotions rear their heads every day. And I will tell you this, and as your listeners kind of go through their careers, it's a misconception that um, traders master their emotions as they get further in their careers, right? Like, I remember people telling me, well, you'll get to the point where you won't have any emotions while you're trading. That's the biggest think of bull, what I've ever heard, right? It's not about uh not having those emotions, or not having those little, the angel and the devil on your shoulder. It's not listening to them, right? It's the instant I get in the trade, I still have anxiety, little anxiety, doubt, fear, greed. But it's being able to not listen to those voices and just execute my setup, execute my playbook. And even when, even when I lose, knowing that, okay, that's okay, I lost, but this is a trade you've done 5,000 times in the last 4 years. Got a 58, 60, 61 winning percentage, whatever setup it is. This one didn't work. Statistically, the next one's going to. Just stick with it. And you're going to have losing streaks. You're going to have days where things just don't, everybody who's been sitting there trying to catch the falling knife for the last couple of days knows exactly what I'm talking about, right? You had about an hour today. Things were pretty good if that was your mentality. But at best, you made back what you lost yesterday, right? So, yeah. So that's, I just had to jump in there.
Okay. So, guys, I did talk with Matt before the stream he said, anytime you want to ask questions, go ahead. He'll answer them as we go along. And it looks like Drawdown King had a question for you. What's the single worst trade you ever made, and what's the best trade you ever made?
So I don't know that I have a best off the top of my head. I will tell you the single worst trade I made. And it was actually my most profitable trade in terms of time spent in a trade. I don't exactly remember the ticker. This was back in my penny stock days. I want to say it was started with an A. I don't remember. Regardless, we all have our trading demons, right? We all have we may have multiple mental trading issues like chasing FOMO, position sizing, over trading, all those good ones, right? For me, it was chasing. I was a FOMO guy. I was a fear of missing out kind of guy. And so where I got into so much trouble early in my career was if stock A, XYZ, a $2.50 penny stock is up at 320, I'm assuming it's going to 4 and I'm buying in there, right? Like they say those idiots that buy a stock when it's up 80%. I was that idiot, right? And I remember the ticker. It went from $2 to $15 in one day. And I wasn't in on it. And then the next day it went from like 15 to 55, 60, something like that. I bought and sold twice in the 30s, riding up to like the 30s. I made $5,600 in spend, and because I looked down to the second in my trade executions. I made $5,600 in 2 trades, hold time combined 49 seconds. It was like
Nice.
20 seconds in one, 20 seconds in the other. Well, it was, and it was great. And I felt that I had it all figured out. I was spending that money in my head. But you know what I did? I went and did. I gave back every cent of that in the next 8 trading days and then some. Because I just started, you see, that's the thing, Ox, about these mental trading mistakes like chasing, like bag holding. If they never worked, they wouldn't be problems. They wouldn't be issues. Those damn things work just enough to keep you coming back and keep telling you there's an edge here. My idiot monkey brain telling me that there's an edge in buying something that's gone from $2 to $30 in 2 days. Like, I could have starred in Idiocracy at that point, right? It is what it is. But yeah, it's that's probably so even though per seconds in the trade, I think this is still true. If it is, it's iffy, but it was my most profitable trade in terms of time spent versus money made. But it was the worst trade I've ever made because it took me 2 months to get out of that mindset and to realize some of the stuff that I was doing. As far as the best, I don't really know, to be honest with you. And I'm a consistency guy. I'm not swinging for the fences. I'm hitting singles and doubles. If I can put a couple $3,000 in my pocket on a day-to-day basis, I'm feeling pretty good about that. So honestly, what's my best trade? The last profitable one I made. So today it was an NQ trade. So we'll say that's the best for now.
Makes good sense. Yeah, because I guess when you're being a consistently profitable trader, it's actually kind of, they say that good trading should be boring, right? So, you can making
100%.
consistently profitable trades, none are really going to stand out because they're all good. They're all basically the same.
Yeah, 100%. It's why I've stayed in the education game over the years, even though I don't want to assume, but I would probably be willing to offer that I'm one of the few actual educators out there who makes far, far less in my education materials than I do in my trading. That's not to point fingers or accuse anybody, but you've seen there's been a number of whether it's FTC complaints or stuff like that, where we've seen the numbers behind some of these big education companies. It's astounding, right? But that's how I keep myself entertained and engaged and helping people, other people get to wherever they can get with that. That's something that I really enjoy doing. Yes, the actual act of trading on a day-to-day basis is extremely boring, but quite frankly, it should be, because if you're doing this for an excitement, I will tell you this: if you're trying to seek excitement in trading, take whatever you're going to spend on evals for the next 6 months, put it on a debit card, go to Vegas. At least you'll be entertained, right? You have the same odds of success over the long term if you're just gambling and throwing money away. And at least this way you'll get entertained, or maybe you'll end up on the roof of a hotel with no memory of what happened the night before. I have no idea. But regardless of that, that you're better off doing that. So
sounds good. Livestock says, on the topic of trading and teaching / coaching, when you trade, what's your take on Mark Douglas? If I recall correctly, he didn't claim to be a great trader, yet seemed to be proficient in coaching. I don't know if you know anything about Mark.
I don't think I have his book down here. Oh, I am a Mark Douglas disciple. I never had the honor of meeting the gentleman before he passed. But one of the first trading books I ever read was The Disciplined Trader. Now, people argue, is The Disciplined Trader better? Is Trading in the Zone better? Honestly, they're kind of the same book, but it's so good, right? And one of my main mantras in education is it's in Mark Douglas's book, but it's a preface. It's actually written by, I don't remember his name off the top of my head, that talks about the whole concept of trading being, why is it so hard compared to everything else? When, as I like to say, when trading is done right, it's not easy, but it is simple. It shouldn't ever be overly complicated, right? And so, where the preface of this book talks about, we as as human beings living in capitalism, we're accustomed to making money a certain way, right? So, Ox, I'm assuming at some point in your life you've had either a salary job or an hourly job.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Okay, so let's say you had a salary job and you were making $50,000 before taxes, right? And if you work a year and you work good enough to not get fired, your $50,000 before taxes better off. You work a 10-hour shift for $8 an hour, you're $80 richer at the end of the day. Okay, that's our concept of time to money. Trading is nothing like that. Okay, there are times I've worked for 30 minutes outside of the teaching. There's times I've worked 30 minutes and I've made $5,000. There's times I've grinded for 6 to 7 hours a day, and I had a day like this it was about a month and a half ago. It was most trades I've made in a single day, and they were all on target. They were all trading setups. They were all in my playbook. I want to say 14 trades. I was at my computer almost the entire day. At the end of the day, I was minus $73. So, the time to money relationship is, yes, the longer you do this, the more you study, the more you put in the work. In theory, the better you'll do. But the time to money relationship is not linear. And that really F's with our head in a lot of ways, because our entire lives, time is directly related to money. And that's just not the case in trading. So it takes reprogramming your whole brain around that concept to really have success. And yes, Mark Douglas I think The Disciplined Trader is mandatory reading for every trader. I read it before I ever placed my first trade. And I will tell you this with not an insignificant amount of shame. I mocked the people in that book and the examples that he said, like mentally in my head. I'm reading through this. I'm like, what moron would make this mistake on page 53? And then I got into trading and I made every single one of them. And it wasn't just once, right? Like the old saying, I never make the same mistake twice. I make it 5 or 6 times just to be sure. And that was me in my first year and a half of trading. So, but yes, Mark Douglas is vital, and I cannot recommend his material enough. If you're somebody who's maybe you're not, you don't like sitting, or maybe you're like me, you got a little ADD, and sitting and reading a whole book is the thing. Go when this stream is done, just search Mark Douglas Trading Psychology on YouTube. There's usually old seminars of his posted. He's basically hammers on like the same 8 to 10 concepts, but he explains them very well. And yeah, he said, he didn't claim, well, he was a pretty good trader, but he made a lot of money and then he lost a lot of money. And he wanted to figure out, okay, I'm doing the same thing. The market conditions are the same. The variable is me, right? And so how do I decode that? How do I solve for me in the equation, right? And he, I don't think he didn't get all the way to kind of the conclusion of trading psychology. I think some of the people that have picked up the ball and run with it, like Dr. Steenbarger, Jared Tendler, some of those guys are kind of taking it to the next level. But it all started with Mark Douglas, and to have his perspective, where he's not like Dr. Steenbarger, he's not a psychiatrist or a psychologist that became a trader or learned trading. He was a trader first and foremost. So those of us that don't have any formal training in psychology, we can relate a lot better to where he's coming from than where some of the licensed people are coming from.
Makes a lot of sense. Yeah, John DeFore says, I've made every mistake Mark Douglas talks about in his book. Great read or listen.
Yeah, you and me both, John. You and me both.
So do you feel that as being a coach and coaching helps you as a trader as well? Like you might be ready to break one of your rules or some other example, and you think, well, this is exactly what I would tell someone I'm coaching not to do. Does coaching help you in trading?
Yeah, it absolutely does. And this allows me to, boy, we didn't even discuss this. This is a great segue. It allows me to cut back in one part of my story. So the big A word in trading is accountability. And it's something that is not discussed as much in trading as it should be. look, I'm the old Chat with Traders podcast, which unfortunately is not quite in its form that it was many years ago because Aaron has gone off to do other things. But if you go to episode 11, he has a conversation with a gentleman named Zach Hurwitz, who is a gentleman I worked with for a little while. Really, really, really good guy, and he talks about the whole concept of trading as a business, right? And it's something I've preached to people for a very long time. The moment you decide to be a trader, you're no longer, you have founded a trading business, which, guys, depending on your state, it's total aside here, well worth paying for an hour of accountant's time to think about, should you start an LLC? What is right? What can you write off? I'm not qualified enough to do that. I know the Green Trader Tax Guy does a lot of stuff, but honestly, it's worth looking into that. Your mileage may vary state to state. I don't know. For me in my state, it makes a ton of sense. But anyway, but like, as you are running a business. That's what you're doing. Imagine, for those of you that have spent, let's say, $10,000 on evals over the last couple of years, and I know that a lot of you have, whether you've gotten some of that back or not. Let's say $10,000. Okay. And you have a good friend of yours that comes up to you. All right. You've got this $10,000 and you're saying, I'm going to go trade with this. I'm going to go buy evals and do all that. But you have somebody come up to you and say, hey, I have a business proposition for you. It's just going to happen to cost that $10,000. And this isn't somebody that's, this is somebody you trust. It's not that family member who, trust me, you start having success in trading, a lot of people come out of the woodwork. But it's somebody you trust, somebody that runs other successful businesses, and they want that money, and you're considering giving it to them. Well, what are you going to ask them? Okay, what's your business plan? Right? If you're going to start a restaurant, don't ever start a restaurant. I have too many friends in that business. But let's say you want to start a burger joint. All right, that's great. Your city has McDonald's, Five Guys, and an independent craft burger joint. How are you going to differentiate yourself from there? How are you going to make money? This $10,000 I'm about to give you, in 5 years, I expect a lot more back. How are you going to do that? And presumably they have an idea. So with that in mind, how are you not going to hold yourself to the same standard, right? And come up with a monthly budget. Okay, I'm going to budget one eval and a reset and an activation fee, or I'm going to budget, okay, I got this data feed that I got to pay for, or I have this indicator that I subscribe to. I'm a member of Matt's Elite Circle community. Wink, wink. Hint, hint, nudge, nudge. That's $97 a month after a $7 for 7-day trial. See, I just slipped that in there. It's really nice. But that you have to have a budget with that, because you don't want to get to the end of the 2 or 3 months and all of a sudden, if you have a husband or a wife, or you have parents or kids or somebody that you're accountable to money wise, what happened to this 10 grand over the last few months, right? But in your trading business, you are the CEO. Okay, you're also the CFO. You're also the head trader. And if you're like me and you work out of your home, you're the janitor too. So you're every stage of that, right? And so most of us, we can do that. But again, it's another paradigm shift in our heads where we're almost all of us, myself included, before I got into trading, we'd never run a company, right? We've never been the guy in something. And so you have to kind of recenter and reevaluate yourself a little bit as you go through that, because otherwise you're not able to hold yourself accountable. So going back to, I was part of like a lot of people were, or are, or whatever, I was part of a trading community, a live trading room for small caps. And I'm going to keep the individual's name out of this because, quite frankly, I think they're still around and I don't want to get sued, but it was just not very helpful. It was not good. But I was too dumb to realize that, and actually paid for a very upgraded mentorship experience. The mentorship experience promised me a lot of one-on-one time with my mentor, the person who ran this room, and a small, intimate chat room with a lot of picks. Well, my day one in this chat room turned out it was me and about 400 of my closest friends. So but what came out of that was that I actually started a small study group. I just asked one day, hey, does anyone want to meet a couple days after the markets close and go over ideas? And so we did that. There were 6 of us that started and met for about 2 years. And a lot of us transitioned to other things. Of those 6, 4 of us are still trading successfully now. And this was about 7 years ago, 7.5, 8 years ago. But one of the rules we had is if you make a trade, and pretty much all of us were swing traders, so this was pretty easy to follow, you had to report it to the group. Doesn't matter if it's a winning trade, losing trade, live trade, sim trade, you had to report it to the group. and we held each other accountable. And so that's something that is lost in a lot of, when people just go do an eval and they don't have a community or they don't have a trading buddy or whatever, there has to be some sort of accountability. That group helped keep me accountable, and that set the stage for every bit of success and every bit of money I've made since then.
That's wonderful. I love the way you put that about the business. That should be out there more. It's something, honestly, I don't think I mean, I've thought about it myself that, this is a business, but I don't think I've ever heard anyone actually say it before. And I think that more people need to hear that and start thinking with that mentality. That's, that's a wonderful message.
Well, in almost anything, Ox, I've noticed over the years, the messages that people need to hear are not necessarily the ones they want to hear, right? And like, I'm not like one of those, usually when somebody says, I tell it like it is, right? That's just really an excuse for them to be an asshole, right? And so I don't really want to phrase it that way. But yeah, a lot of the lessons that we need to hear as younger traders, young in experience, not in age, we don't want to hear. And I was the same way. As far as the trading as a business, I'll tell you this: when I've worked at 4 different places over the years, counting where I am right now with me, and those are places I worked for, not like companies I've done like stuff with in the past or very recently or anything like that. Where I was directly producing content for them under their banner exclusively, all of that. So every place I've been is a pretty standard formula, right? You got your video courses, you got your live trading rooms. I've tried to steer on my own a little more towards a mentorship based type stuff and try to keep the cost down because I know how that can eat into a lot. But over the years, I've put together probably 20 to 25 video courses. And I will tell you this one. About, what was it? Right when I started working for TradeStation, they wanted 4 courses. So I put together 2 strategy courses, a psychology course, and the trading as a business course. And when I pitched the trading as a business course, everyone said exactly what you said. Man, nobody else is teaching this. It's great, whatever. I spent 3 weeks coming up with the slides, recording everything, doing all this, putting it together. I will tell you, when I finished that course, I was as proud of that course as anything I've ever put together. And it didn't sell a single copy. Did not sell a single effing copy. I was like, in my naivete, I was like, this is going to change the business. People are going to be talking about this course for you. No, nobody bought it. Everyone bought the strategy courses. Few people bought the psychology course. Nobody bought the trading as a business course, even though it costs less than half of what the other ones did, right? And it was just again, trading psychology, another thing, and I'm glad somebody brought up Mark Douglas. That's undertaught as well. So when I was in with You Can Trade, we were presenting at the Traders Expo in New York, early March of 2020. Right, this was we got on our planes and left town 5 days before they locked down the city. Thankfully, nobody caught anything. And in hindsight, but because the COVID was starting to come up there, they had a lot of cancellations. Because TradeStation was a major sponsor, they called my boss the night we got in, the night before everything opened, said, hey, we just had a bunch of people cancel. Tell me how many slots you want, and they're yours, right? And so they gave us a 90-minute slot in like the main ballroom, like seats like 700, all of this. And we had, actually, this was like 9 o'clock in the press. So from 9 p.m. to 2 p.m. the next day, I had to, me and one of the other coaches had to put together a presentation. I was like, okay, what can we do on short notice? So we did a trading psychology talk, right? And I mean, I thought it went great, but I remember like a decent chunk of people, not insignificant amount of people, like got up and left in the middle of it, right, at various times. And once it was done, I said to the crowd, I said, it's about probably 60% full at the end. I said, this is one of those things that the people that most needed to hear the message that we just said, they left. They're seeking out. Now, the next day, I did a strategy session in a smaller room, and it was standing room only, right? And people stayed till the very end. And it was just like basic candlestick pattern. So half of learning and trading is understanding what you need to learn. And if you master your psychology, you master your risk management early on, it doesn't matter how long it takes you to figure out strategies and the rest of it. You have those 2 down, you're going to at least stay afloat in this game until you figure out the rest. And then, what was it that, it was Jesse Livermore that said it's millions come easier to a trader, I'm trying to remember the verbatim quote, to a trader, once he knows how to trade, than hundreds did in his days of ignorance. And over the years, I found that to be 1,000% true.
I agree, and I definitely agree about trader psychology, because when you first find trading, no one tells you about that. Psychology is probably the biggest thing. You don't find that out until after you're starting to take trades, and you're realizing that you're doing all the stuff that you eventually learn is all about trader psychology. No one tells you that when you're starting it. It's just all
Yeah.
about making the money, and it's just read the charts, make the money, and none of the other stuff.
Yeah, and listen, I will on behalf of my industry, the trading education industry, I do feel partially responsible, not me personally, but us as an industry, for creating unrealistic expectations for people. I mean, I'm sure a lot of your YouTube subscribers will see a lot of the ads that are out there, because obviously you're subscribing or liking trading channels. As I, I'll look at what competition is doing. And so of course that's what YouTube's going to be pitching you, is those type of ads. And if I see one more fake private jet or Lamborghini or some crap in the first 2 or 3 seconds of a video, I swear to God, I'm going to punch a hole in my computer screen.
I bought YouTube Premium because of those ads. I couldn't stand them anymore.
That might be the best advertising pitch for YouTube Premium I've ever seen. I've rejected YouTube Premium than my buddy Steve used to get rejected in college, but that's a whole different conversation. That's a great thing. But no, actually, so this is a funny story there. I have a lot of people. I live just outside of Chicago, so I know a lot of people in the business here, especially the people that I met when I was working at TradeStation. I had to go into the Chicago offices for quite a bit of stuff. And there is, and there's a ton of these in LA from what I understand, but in Chicago, there's a studio. I don't know if they're still there. They were close to the United Center for a while. That is basically like an influencer studio. So you go in there, and I'd never been there personally, but I saw the pictures because a buddy of mine does, actually it was a former intern of mine, used to do, she does marketing in Chicago now, and sent me pictures of this place because she told me these places existed and I didn't believe her. So it's like a small like photography studio, and they actually have set up a half of a mock-up, like a cut-off interior of a private jet, and it's got these 8K screens outside of the window, so they can put you want to look like you're looking out the window and there's the Eiffel Tower. They can put that on the screen, and with the right lighting, nobody knows that it's fake. And they said that we have influencers and celebrities and people that will come here and we'll take pictures of them like they're on a private jet. They have I think 4 or 5 different like really high-end luxury cars that don't even have an engine in them, right? They're just, and they can put them in front of a green screen and superimpose whatever they want on there. So you can sit there, and now I'm not disputing some people do have a great amount of success and they do spend it on those toys, and hell, good for them. But like I said, I drive a very nice car. I have a pretty nice house. You're never going to see either one of them, because I don't think it doesn't help me help you make money by knowing what kind of car I drive. And I understand the marketing behind that. I drive $100,000. If somebody says I drive $100,000 car, it's because I trade. I can help you do that. But I think it's very disingenuous, and it creates a lot of very unrealistic expectations. And it's why poor trading education and again, coming back to one of the negative aspects of some of the prop firms, the allure of, in theory, being able to make a ton of money very quickly in that has created some really unrealistic expectations for people. And what happens when we have unmet expectations, right? We have frustration, we have anger, we have fear. If somebody in your life, right, if you're in an exclusive relationship, your expectation of that person is that they stay faithful to you. If they don't, that creates, again, anger, fear, negative emotions. And it's the same in trading. If you're expecting to make a ton of money when you first start and you don't, that creates a ton of negative emotions. And that can be a very hard cycle and hard, kind of circular pattern to get out of.
Yeah, I agree. So we've talked a lot about, as you start, or, if you learn this at the beginning, or whatever. If someone came to me today and said, I want to learn to trade, but I know nothing. If I ask them what a candlestick is, they think it's something that they go down to Walmart and buy. They know absolutely nothing. Where and how would you tell them to get started?
That's a great question. And so I think what I would do is kind of recommend they go the path that I did after I paused everything and kind of went back to day zero, right? And I would say learn a couple of very basic forms of technical analysis. I know like candlesticks now are kind of getting out of vogue, right? We have market profile, we have TPO. I still look at candlesticks every day, but I do a lot of Renko charts now. Heat maps on places like Bookmap and things like that. But honestly, I think candlesticks are still just a great entry to the markets. And anything by Steve Nison, Nison, that you can get your hands on secondhand, his stuff's all over eBay. Can't recommend it enough. But just a very basic technical analysis and very basic trading psychology, right? And the first skill you should, I don't know that you ever master the markets or master any part of the markets, but the first thing you should attempt to master is risk management, right? A good mutual friend of ours, Ox, has said, we are not in the trading business, we are in the risk management business. And that's 100% true. Finding out any play that you have, like any play in your playbook, any strategy, setup, whatever you want to call it, they're all kind of mean the same thing. Learn your risk reward, or your reward to risk. Like I try to have about a 1.5 to 1 or a 1.8 to 1 risk to reward. So if I'm in the NQ, I'm okay risking 15 handles to make 20 to 25, right? And then I know my winning percentage, if it's just 50%, and mine's thankfully a little bit above that, I'm going to build my account, right? We always want to think of these, trying to hit home runs and all this. No, if I can make 30 handles for every 15, or make, let's say 25 handles for every 15 to 18 that I lose, and I can keep my winning percentage 55 to 58%, I can tell you from personal experience, that account grows, and it grows very quickly. So yeah, so a very basic form of technical analysis, and I would say candlesticks, maybe just even candlesticks and moving averages, right, to start with, and basic risk management, and tie that into trading psychology. And I think that's going to keep you busy for your first 6 months of your career, and then you can start building on from there. But that's a great question.
How long do you think I've seen this debate on this, how long do you think someone should paper trade? I've seen people say not too long because you're not feeling the real emotions of the market. And I've seen other people say you should do it until you feel 100% comfortable.
Well, they're both right and they're both wrong, to be honest. So again, I have to change my answer on this a little bit in light of the emergence of some of these virtual prop firms, right? And well, I know these are called prop. I refer to them as funded trader companies. I think a prop firm has an educational component to them. And to be honest, some of these places, that's a little lacking. I mean, some are helpful, and that's great. And to be fair, some of them don't even pretend to be that way. So you can't get mad if somebody doesn't advertise something. You can't be mad at them for not providing it. But the I'm trying to think of the. And I just lost my train of thought. What was your question, Ken? I'm sorry.
How long should someone paper trade?
Oh, paper trading. Yeah, got it. Sorry. It's late. I've been working since 6:30 this morning. My ADD is kicking in, but no. So if you had asked me this question 4 years ago, I would have said you should paper trade for at least 6 months before you move live trading, go to live trading. However, I'm a realist now, and I know with the funded trader companies and how they roll, I think it's okay. First of all, I do think you should at least paper trade for a few weeks to start with, maybe a month. But again, I'm also realistic. People want to jump right in. As long as you're budgeting for your evals and your resets. And again, I always tell somebody budget for 2 months of a subscription and at least 2 resets, right? And if you're doing that and you get right into it, at least you're understanding, and your expectation is not to be a millionaire overnight. I think you can go into what I call trading with consequences, right? Because if you're trading in an eval, it's sim money, but there's still consequences to passing or failing the account, right? So it's not even live trading per se, but there are still, like I said, consequences. So if somebody started tomorrow and they learned the basics, I would say spend at least a month, but realistically 2 to 3 weeks paper trading, and then go get yourself a cheap eval somewhere and just start getting in the habit of the trades counting. So that's a great question. That's one my answer has definitely evolved on just in the past couple of years, let alone the past 4 or 5.
It's a good point. And that's what, it's often what I also tell people is, if you're just starting out, then go with some of the sim firms that offer those 80 or 90% off. And once you're starting to if you start passing those with ease, then move up to the ones that definitely put you on a live account.
Mm-hmm.
So, does anyone else have any questions? Some potential questions. Ace asks, do you have any pre-trading rituals? And what's your physical setup, such as screens, computer, etc.?
Okay. Yeah, I see, Ace. I see your question here. So let me try to break this down. So pre-trade ritual. Well, I mean, if we're talking pre-market ritual, I have a pretty strict regimen that I follow. I do my before the bell show at 8:30 Eastern, usually about 10 or 12 minutes. Then I'll have a cup of coffee. I'll kind of study the markets. Then usually about 8 o'clock, so I'm on Central Time, 30 minutes when the market opens, I'll take 10 minutes just catch up on sports scores or news and stuff like that. Then for about 5 minutes before the markets open, I actually do what I call a mental self-check. I'll close my eyes, take a couple of deep breaths, just make sure I'm there, right? And make sure I'm all right, because probably 6 or 7 times a year I'm not. And whether it's lack of sleep or something, not always bad, right? So I said it's even more dangerous to sit down at your computer to trade with extreme positive emotions than is extreme negative, right? Because positive, you feel on top of the world. I just got engaged a few months ago, so it's, you feel on top of on top of the world, and you're like, oh, I can go a little extra into this. I can go up to 7 minis and blow 3 days worth of profits, right? Thankfully, I didn't do that. But yeah, those are the types of things that you need to be very, very cautious of. Now, as far as pre-trade, I wouldn't say I have a set ritual. I see a trade, take a trade, right? I'll give a plug to my YouTube channel here. If you just search Tiresias Trading, in probably Monday, I'm gonna have my next mini webinar posted, which is the 5 questions I ask myself before I go into a trade. And granted, that's a process now that takes 5 to 10 seconds for me. But I trade when I see a setup. If I don't see a setup, I don't trade. And it really is that simple at this point in my career. As far as my physical setup, it is a little challenging because so I'm down in my basement right now. I have 2 screens here. I do a little trading down here when I'm doing getting ready for stuff or this or that, but everything I got down here is running off a MacBook. Then I have a big Windows tower upstairs, and that's my main trading computer. I have 3 screens up there. Nothing huge or dramatic. I think I got 327 monitors. I think they're 1440. So it's these people with 6 or 7 screens that are all 4K. I don't know what you're doing. I don't know, where the hell are you looking at a given point, right? There is paralysis by analysis, and in my experience, and yes, there are exceptions to this rule. And no, you are probably not the exception, unfortunately. But yeah, the royal you, not you specifically, Ox, but I saw a guy who has he has 2 computers and 7 34-inch monitors that are all 4K. I'm like, what are you even doing? Are you launching a space shuttle or are you trading? Just do what you do. The less you're looking at, to a point, of course, but the less you're looking at, the more you can focus, the better trade. It is so quality over quantity in this business. It's probably why I'm a good trader. That's how I view my personal life. That's how I view my friends and associations and work relationships. I am 100% about quality. I do not give a crap about quantity, and that's as well. So yeah. Okay, I've pulled this around. Actually, let me kind of fire through these questions here, if you don't mind. Thoughts on scaling up your trading? Yeah, take your time on scaling up, guys. It took me 3 years to get from 5 micros to 3 minis, and now I'm just kind of moving into 3 to 4. I hope to be up to 5 by the end of the year. But once you get a little more confident in your trading, you can scale up pretty quick. You should be slow to start scaling up, and a little quicker to scale up, but you have to continue to have your success. If you scale up and your winning percentage, your profits drop, then you got to scale back down or scale up a little slowly. John and Ace coming at me with the questions here. I love that. 84% win rate. You trade 1% or less than 50. That's a great win rate, man. Honestly, if your win rate is so I don't often believe you can talk about win rate without risk reward. So I'd be curious to know what your risk reward is there. If you're some scalpers are trying for 5 handles and they're willing to risk 10, right? Well, you need to have a hell of a win rate for that to be a lucrative strategy. So I kind of need to know where your risk reward is on that. I don't believe as traders we can talk about winning percentage without talking about your average risk reward. And most trading journals will calculate that automatically for you, although you should still have a goal in mind with that. Like I said, about the 1.5 or 1.8 to 1 is where I want to be with that. Preferred setup, Ace, we don't have that kind of time tonight, man. I have about 6 or 7 setups that I trade pretty stringently. My favorites right now are these Renko trades. I do have a course that teaches those. You're welcome to email me, Matt at TiresiasTrading.com, TIRESIS trading.com. TIRESIAS trading.com. It's behind me. You can kind of see it. But yeah, just email me. I'll send you a link to that if you want. And I'll cut you a little deal since you're on Ox's channel here. Let's see. Trading before the market opens, trade after the open. Ace, I keep my trades pretty much in the New York market hours, 9:30 to 4 Eastern, 8:30 to 3 for those of us on regular time. So yeah, that's kind of where I'm at with that. My main four market trades: NQES, CLGC. I'm getting a little more into the YM as well, especially as it's kind of been trading a little differently than the other indexes. But guys, I typically don't make more than 3 to 4 trades per day. I typically spend, I think last I checked, this is not something I've checked recently, but I think I spend 9 to 11 minutes a day in actual trades. And the rest of the time I'm either looking for a trade, waiting for a trade, or teaching or running some of my midday meetings or anything like that. So 1.8 to 1 and 84 win percentage, John, you don't need my help. You're doing great. Just keep on keeping on. It's just a mental hurdle to scale up. Just start. Honestly, I know everyone bitches about the commissions with the micros, and I get it. But go from 5 micros to 8 micros. Go to 10 micros. Go to 15. Don't even move to minis until you're up to 20 or 25 micros. And then it's such a gradual movement you won't even know. So. Any chance you live? Yeah, we can maybe work that out at some point. We can maybe work. I've got so much on my plate right now as far as actually I'm in the process of launching an app for my company. It's actually going to be in the iOS store next week, Google probably a week after that. So I'll keep you guys informed on that. But yeah, I might be able to pop in sometime if Ox doesn't mind.
I'm certainly open to that. Welcome that very much.
Okay,
and
absolutely.
let us know on the Discord when those apps launch, and I'll make sure to promote that as well for you.
I always appreciate that. Absolutely.
Oh yeah,
So,
and congratulations on your engagement. I meant to say that earlier.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that. Yeah, I'm very excited for that. Very excited for that. Let's just say the ring she would have gotten before I was a trader is not as nice as the one she got now, but she's not really into that kind of stuff. So thankfully, that's good. So as we kind of wrap up here, I do want to just kind of leave you with, because I know your specialty is the funded trader companies and all this stuff. And as I said, I think it's a great service you're providing. But I'm really interested in where this industry is going to head over the next 6 to 8 months, because and we're not going to name names. We're not going to say good company, bad company. We're not getting into all that garbage. But I would imagine, and you and I have had a couple of conversations on this, it seems like we're finally at the point where the industry is kind of, I won't say it's reached maturity, but it's sort of in its adolescence. This is not a new industry anymore. And there's so much competition. And just in the past year, so many companies have closed up shop or changed or opened or done all this. I'll make a statement. You tell me agree or disagree. I feel like this business is kind of ripe for disruption. Like I kind of feel there needs to be a couple of companies or that come along that maybe do things a little differently. And I'm not entirely sure what that looks like, but I think it's going to be interesting to see over the next few months as some of the drama at places plays out, or other stuff going on. I don't know. You have anything to add to that? But
oh, I definitely agree. I mean, I think we saw disruption, when back a few years ago when some of the newer companies started coming in, that are primarily sim companies, we'll say that, and we saw the old DOGs in the business have to change, or they kind of they lost popularity. But now you're seeing all these new companies come in, but they're just cookie cutters for the most part of everything that's already existed. They're trying to copy the companies that were there beforehand instead of making any type of change. I do think there needs to be a company, or needs to be somebody there that starts thinking of what the next big idea is, what needs to change about the industry, where does the industry move on from here, instead of just having 1,000 firms that are basically just the same firm with an extra percent off that week or whatever. So yeah, I definitely agree. It's ripe for somebody to find something that makes a change in the industry.
Yeah, absolutely. And it seems like everybody's trying to get a slice of the same pie, and nobody's willing to go back in the kitchen and bake. So it'll be interesting to see. I know I'll look forward to having both public and private conversations with you on this over the coming months. You never, I will say this, I've been in this business long enough to know there's always stuff cooking behind the scenes. You just never know about it until it's out there. So, and obviously it's at least from what I understand from my limited contacts in this business, it's a pretty lucrative one. So I imagine, if somebody can come in with something a little different, there might be an opportunity, there. And obviously if they have a great education component, I'll be happy to help out where I can. So.
Oh, absolutely. And I mean, I'll be happy to promote something that, something that's different that, because, when I go through my little video in the morning and say, this is on sale, this is on sale, this is on sale, and it's nothing different than, so I'll love to have something to say, this is totally 100% different than anything out there. Give these guys a try, or whatever, whatever comes
Absolutely.
along.
I have no doubt that's going to happen. It's just who, the where, the when. That's going to be the key. But you evolve or you die in this business, both as a trader, as an educator, as a platform provider, all that kind of stuff. So any of that. The last question I'll take here before we wrap up. Livestock just asked about the trading journal. Honestly, Livestock, in my experience, they are all pretty similar. Just, most of them have discounted or trials or whatever. But I use Trader Sync. There's Trader View. There's Edgewonk. There's TradeZella, I believe. Honestly, anything that can track your trading and you can tag your trades based on setup and all that kind of stuff. You can't go wrong with that stuff. You don't need to do these heavy deep dives. You don't need to know, how do I trade on Tuesdays between 8:37 and 8:45? You don't need to know that, but based on setup and morning or afternoon, if you can just segregate that, there will probably be, with, let's say 1,000 trades or 500 trades over the course of 6 months, I promise you there's an edge somewhere in that data. Finding it, sometimes it's easy, sometimes it's not, but yeah, that's a good place. That's a good question. Journaling is vital.
Absolutely agree. So before we wrap up, Matt, why don't you tell everyone where everybody can find you and promote your 2 little YouTube things you do each day?
Yeah. So, somebody finally asked the question. Jay, I will get to you momentarily.
I am shocked that took that long.
Yeah, what the hell's wrong with you guys? It took so darn long. So, let me just. On my YouTube channel, if you just search Tiresias Trading, you'll see me there. Or at the top of this where it says @MightyOx. Trading, just when this is done, take out MightyOxTrading, put in Tiresias Trading, just go subscribe. At 60 minutes before the New York Open, I do a 10 to 12-minute live show called Before the Bell, break down what's coming in the markets that day, some key areas. We give a trade idea or two if there's one available. Then I do Beyond the Bell. It's a show I've done in one way, shape, or form off and on for almost 8 years now, pretty much since I started getting into the education side of things. It's had different names, different companies, different places, but I love doing it. And that goes live usually 60 seconds after the bell. So 4:01 Eastern, right there on that page. That goes a little 20 to 30 minutes, depending on the day. I'll just direct you there for now. If you're motivated enough, you want to come work with me, like I said, just shoot me an email, matt@TiresiasTrading.com. Maybe sometime in the next couple of days, I'll post a link to my community and Ox's server if he consents to that, and we'll kind of go from there. So Jay probably just asked what happened at Blue Sky. So most of I didn't work for, I worked with and did some content. In fact, Beyond the Bell was under their banner for a while. I don't want to get too much in the weeds on a lot of things, guys. And obviously there's let me just say this, a large percentage of their team resigned, and that's publicly known. That was publicly stated by one of them. Beyond that, I don't have a ton of details, and it was over a week before anyone at Blue Sky reached out to me. I was mostly in the dark with a lot of you guys. I'll just say this about the 2 things. A lot of things were said about the guys that left after they left, and the things that was said about them is not consistent with my experience with those gentlemen. Which was nothing but positive during my year of providing some YouTube content for them. And number 2, I get asked a lot, like, what are they doing? Where they go? I don't know, but I will tell you, if there's ever a possibility of working with those gentlemen again, I'll be the first one in line to do it, because that's how positive the experience was. So as far as what they're doing now, honestly, I have zero ill will towards them or anybody there. There's so much room in this business for everyone to be successful. I still think they have some of the better rules in the business. But I honestly, that is, I know it sounds like a cop out, but they're the past. And as far as I'm concerned, and I wish them well. Hope they have a bunch of success, and I'm looking forward to what the future brings. But guys, don't take anything in this business personal. Like if you have a company that you really like, odds are something's going to change at some point. Change is constant in this business, both in the way the markets trade, how we trade, the education we seek out, the companies we like to go for. So it is in trading. It's probably the one aspect of your life that is 1000% not only accepted but encouraged to be selfish. Go to the companies that best you feel that you can best work with in terms of in the prop firm, the rules, the payouts, the live brokerage, or any of that stuff. It's okay to be 100% selfish in that regard. And so do what's best for you. And as far as the next step, just stay tuned.
Sounds good. And just a quick note that if for anyone that wants to catch Beyond the Bell or Before the Bell, we do post it in our Discord server at MightyOxTrading every day, both of them before it happens. If Matt doesn't post it, I also have a bot to post it, so you can find it there as
great.
well. Yeah. So Matt,
that saves me the time then.
I thank you very much for your time tonight. This has been enjoyable. I want to thank everyone for the questions. We'll have to do it again sometime.
I absolutely 100%. I really look forward to it. And thank you for having me. I really appreciate this. As now I'm obviously kind of, for the first time in a while, kind of doing my own thing as far as YouTube goes. So I'm definitely appreciative. Anybody helping me get my name out there, get the likes and the subscribes up. And yeah, great questions tonight, guys. And if you're somebody who's watching this, I know this is probably like a lot of stuff I do. We're going to get a ton of views on this over the course of the next week, 2 weeks. So if you're watching this and it's not live, I am in Ox's server, just Trader Matt. Feel free to tag me with any questions. You're welcome to direct message me, but if it's a general question, just tag me in the chat, because I've learned in this business, if you have a question that you're willing to say out loud, there's probably 5 people that are just nervous to ask it that won't. So again, you're welcome to. I will never direct message you. I haven't gotten any scammers impersonating me yet. I'm a little insulted by that, but I say that there's going to be 10 tomorrow. No, but I will never cold message you, especially asking for any personal details, just like Ox in his server. But you are welcome to initiate a conversation with me. If it's during the trading day, give me an hour or two to get back to you. Again, you're also welcome to email me, just Matt, MATT, at TiresiasTrading.com. And yeah, I try to be very accessible to people. I'd rather, I said this today in my community room, I'd rather work with 20 to 30 people that are really dedicated and want to learn and are willing to learn and hold themselves accountable and do the work than 200 people that aren't, even if the 200 people are paying double. It's just, I enjoy what I do. And it's nice. It's a nice little side income, but it's nowhere near what I make trading. And I honestly do believe I'm one of the few people in the business that are like that. So.
Absolutely. I like that. I prefer coaches that are making their money from trading and then just doing it as a helpful thing on the other, on the side. Mm-hmm. So that wraps up for tonight. Again, thank you for being here and joining us. Thank you again, Matt. Reminder, join our Discord because, a lot of good stuff's there, including Matt. Have a good night, Matt. Thank you very much.
All right. Thanks, Ox. Good night, man.
Yep. If you enjoyed today's